Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm Jan Fransen. Yes, it's Jan in the U.S. If you want to say Jan, I answer to that too. That's fine. Reminds me of my Swedish grandparents when you do that. So I am the service lead for Research Information Management Systems. So that's where the RIM is coming from. That's the word that we've decided we're going to go with. I know others will call systems like Pure a CRIS system and other things like that. We've just decided RIM is what we're going to call it for Research Information Management. I'm going to talk today a little bit about a website that you see linked right there, z.umn.edu. That's our URL shortener at the University of Minnesota, /RIM use cases. And I'll tell you a little bit about how that came about and how we use that to promote the use of RIM, including Experts at Minnesota, our Pure instance at the University of Minnesota. So first of all, I got to give you a little bit of a background. This is the United States, and Minnesota is that red one right there. Yes, it's cold there. It's actually quite a bit like this climate right now, but when I left on Saturday, it was snowing. So it started early. We are the land of 10,000 lakes. You can see those little dots there. Those aren't just dust on the screen. Those are lakes. And a few more. It's more like 15,000. And we are the gopher state. We're referred to as the gopher state. If you're not familiar with a gopher, it looks like that. We at the University of Minnesota, I'm based at the Twin Cities campus. We are the largest campus of the 5. Duluth up on Lake Superior is the second largest. And then we have 3 smaller campuses, Crookston, Morris, and Rochester. That image right there, isn't that gorgeous? That is the Mississippi River, which runs through the middle of the campus. I walk across the bridge that you see there. I walk across that just about every day between our East Bank, where my office is, and the West Bank, where unfortunately the library's administration is, and I work for the libraries. About those Gophers, yes, we are the University of Minnesota Gophers. A lot of maroon and gold in this presentation. So, Pure, at the University of Minnesota. We were a SciVal Experts customer. We ran that as a pilot for about 3 years, and then just as we were coming out of the pilot and deciding, yes, we are going to continue offering Experts at Minnesota as a service, Elsevier said, oh, here's this new thing called Pure. Why don't you move to that? And I think we may have been the first instance to go live in the US. We had no idea the history of Pure in Europe and everything else all about Pure, and we had no idea really how different it was going to be from SciVal Experts. It was originally, SciVal Experts was purchased, administered by the library, purchased by a combination of the libraries, the Office of the Vice President for Research, and then the deans of each of our major colleges. They all kicked in money and said, let's get this thing. We launched with Pure into the middle of 2015. We were just the Twin Cities campus then. We extended out to Duluth, our second largest campus, in 2017, and then we just added the smaller 3 campuses, which really just amounts to a couple of hundred researchers just in January. We haven't actually told them yet that they're in. Their profiles, their individual profiles are not public yet, but we are collecting their data. We're just waiting basically until we have support on those campuses for people who will support Experts at Minnesota beyond just the email support that we can do from the Twin Cities. Our initial objective, the reason the deans came to the libraries and OVPR, the research office, and said, we need a product, was because they wanted to find a way to help people find each other for collaborations. What we like to joke about is, well, and maybe it's not so much of a joke, they wanted to keep the money here. They wanted people to find other people within the university so that when they applied for the grant, it would be the money would be coming to the University of Minnesota and not to the University of Minnesota and the institution of somebody's college roommate. You know, they wanted to build those relationships on campus. That visualization is something that I cooked up in Gephi. I just presented a poster about that. You can probably go see the poster if you want to later. So our initial focus was to get people to engage with their profiles. We wanted people to open up, look at, we sent them all an email here, look at your profile, add things to it, make it beautiful. This is a good example of somebody who did. But here's some fun facts. 3,794 faculty members in our Experts at Minnesota system right now with public profiles. Of those, 10% of them have added a photo. 7% of them have linked their ORCID ID. We've promoted that heavily. 4.5% have done both. 26% of that 3,794 have logged in at least once during the time we've had Pure, since 2015. 10% have logged in at least once this year. Okay, that's how much engagement we have with the faculty members and their profiles. And that's after a lot of communication out to the faculty, telling them that they have profiles and they should go look at them. Now, it could be that they are going and looking at them and they're saying, that looks fantastic, I don't want any changes, and they never bother to log in. Okay, that's possible, but gosh, I would think they'd at least want a photo, wouldn't you? Anyway, so does that mean that Experts at Minnesota is not successful? Would I be standing here if we felt like it was? Okay, what we've basically figured out is that faculty members are not our primary audience here. Each individual faculty member does not care about the online public profile they have in Experts at Minnesota. They have other public profiles. Either that or they just don't care about having a public presence at all, which is the case for more than a few. They care about maybe their web page on the departmental website, maybe. Or they care about their Google Scholar profile, or something like that, but they don't care about Experts at Minnesota. The people who use the data, those are our primary stakeholders. So in the last presentation, you saw some great examples of that, the questions that people ask that you can answer with that kind of bibliometric data. I've listed off a few of them here. Department heads, center managers, grant coordinators, communication staff, top administrators, webmasters, data analysts. Those are the people that we need to reach out to for all kinds of different reasons. For the administrators, yeah, they want the big report or the beautiful visualization or something like that. The webmasters, we found that the people, communication staff in individual departmental offices, they want to use that data that's on the profiles in Experts at Minnesota and feed it onto their own websites. So they can have their own everything else around it, their news items or what have you, and they don't have to retype a bunch of publication data. So that's the kind of thing we're focusing on now. A little bit more about the University of Minnesota. I like to say we are aggressively decentralized. No one wants to do the same exact thing as anybody else. OVPR, our research office, they deal with grant administration, applying for the grant, getting the money, taking care of the money. They don't really deal with development. Instead, every college has its own grant development person who's looking for putting together groups of people to apply for a grant and that sort of thing. OVPR does purely the administrative stuff. How do they know they need Pure? We talk to them one at a time. When we can, of course, we do reach out to larger groups, but until about a year ago, for example, there was no larger group of all of the people doing research, advancement, and development on our campus. They just launched a grassroots group about a year ago. We are on their agenda every time they let us be on their agenda. When we go in, we're talking to them with pilot projects in mind and with use cases in mind that we have done, and we just continually add to that. Okay, so that works great when it's me going in, because I work with Pure pretty much every day. I am the administrator, and therefore I know how it's been used, how it's being used. But I cannot reach everybody on this very large campus, much less the other 4, by myself. So I really am relying on our liaison librarians who do get out and talk to people to have the message in their head, what they can tell as something comes up, a question comes up, how can they respond to it? How can they say, yes, we can help you with that, and here's how. I know off the top of my head the examples, and I can pull one up. So we needed to give them a way to do the same thing. So one of the groups that I'm a part of is called, right now it's called the Research Outputs and Impacts Committee in the library, ROI, how about that? It's going to probably be changed to the RIM committee just to be consistent, but that committee started putting these things together. We took cases, things that I had done, things that they had done that I didn't necessarily know about, and writing them up. That is what you'll see on that website. Sometimes it's very creative things, sometimes it's very mundane things, like a scheduled report out of Pure, that kind of thing. That's actually been a huge way of getting buy-in for us, a scheduled report of what of the faculty in my department published in the last month. For each write-up that we did, we wrote up what was the problem, what was the solution, and then we have a call to action, contact us, that goes out to a form that collects information that then it feeds into our ServiceNow system, our ticketing system, and we get that message. The kinds of things that we're talking about here is a super simple, very basic Google Sites site. But we've got things like scheduled reports, I just mentioned those. Using a list of people to uncover publications related to a center. This is a big use case for us, and actually a group that I've worked with quite a bit is a particular material science-oriented grant-funded center that needs to report out once a month, or once a year, on everything that's been published from the money that they were given by the NSF, the National Science Foundation. Now, that sounds very trivial and typical, I think, to probably many of you from other countries, but we don't have any national reporting anything. Everybody has different requirements for what their funder wants, and so we don't have standard ways of doing any of this. In that particular case, the administrator of the center has a list of all of the people that they've given money to, all the people associated with the center. She gets a monthly report out of Pure. It comes in as an Excel spreadsheet in her email. She opens it up, she clicks a button, and a tiny script that I wrote that goes out to Scopus grabs the acknowledgments section of the paper, which I don't know why that's not in Pure. Why is that not in Pure? But it's not yet. And the acknowledgments are supposed to contain an acknowledgement of the center or the grant. So that's how they're determining, yes, this is a publication. What she then does is tag that publication to be associated with the grant, as you would expect. What she's found is that when she sends out an email to all the researchers, maybe she'll hear back from some of them. If she sends out an email and says, here's what I think you've done that's funded by this grant, oh, they're very happy to point out any problems. So she's gotten a lot better quality without ever having to think about it like she used to. So that's an example of a use case that I can then take out and simplify and show to other people who have similar problems. I just have lists of what they are here, and you can certainly look through them all or go to the site yourself. In fact, I think I'm going to try, I think I've got enough time to just open up the form or the site and give you a look at that and open up one of the forms. So if I can find oh, you can't see that. Hang on. Maybe you'll be able to see it. And then the left arrow key. Gotcha. Oh, I'm on a new desktop. Yeah, that was a good guess, though. I can see it on my screen. Maybe I won't show it to you. Not that big a deal. You can go look at it. You click a form button. There's a form. I think I am.
Give a second. It's not working. Is the source of the video? Can we change it?
It's probably just, yeah, let's see if we can do change it to duplicate. And we'll have to remember to change it back for the next presenter. There we go. Okay, yeah. There is our website. Now I can just, yeah, there we go. Again, it's just a very simple Google site. We were trying to keep it very lightweight and easy for us to maintain. I'll just open up one of these, and we've got a few at the bottom of every page. We've got some coming soons that we haven't gotten around to writing up yet. Here's an example. The example I just described. On the left-hand side, we're just describing, here's what was needed. Over there on the right, that's actually a screenshot of the spreadsheet where the code is run to look in the acknowledgments for specific bits of text that are supposed to have been included. And if they click the I would like to know more, we get a Google form, and of course I will have to use my Google account. It's collecting a, oh, you know what, I'm not going to do that because it's going to make me authenticate with my dual authentication. Won't do that. But it will collect a little bit of information from them about who they are, what they're trying to do, and then send it on as a ticket to us that we can then triage and send to the appropriate person. Often that will be me, but not always. Our liaisons are becoming more and more adept at doing things like building reports. All right, after all that, any questions for me?
Hello?
Yes.
Jan, it's not a question as such, it's just we've just had a look at this on our tablet and it looks great, and you've filled us full of ideas about things that we should do to try and, I think, better demonstrate some of the benefits that we've been able to deliver with Pure. Quite often we know ourselves what those benefits are, but we don't articulate them well enough, I think. So that's a fab idea.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, you know, at first I think in addition to relying on each individual faculty member to maintain their own presence, we were also relying on upper management to tell people about it, the top level administration, who we would give these beautiful visualizations to. But what was happening was we'd give them this beautiful thing and they would say, that's awesome, and then they would forget about it because the next important thing came along, and it would never filter down to others who could benefit. So just documenting it when you do something like that and making that available, I think, is useful in itself. I like having a link I can send people to.
Just a question.
Hi, so for the RIM use case, you've chosen to rebrand it as something else other than like experts at Minnesota?
And let me tell you why. So Bonnie's question was that you've branded it as RIM use cases. You haven't called it experts at Minnesota use cases, as we might have. And that's because we wanted to allow a little bit of flexibility. We knew that there were things that would sort of fit into that research information management bucket that would not necessarily be things that would be solutions coming from Pure. One example would be I have a piece of equipment, and it's not just University of Minnesota people who use that equipment. Other people pay to use that equipment. And I want to keep track of what those people are publishing and where they have used my equipment so that I can then defend the cost and so on. That's not a Pure solution. We're only getting in the publications by our internal authors. That's more of a Scopus solution. We can help people set up a workflow where they can do, pull stuff out of Scopus as needed, set up an appropriate search for them or whatever. So we wanted to have it a little bit broader in that way. Similarly, we're actually running a task force right now that's looking at ways of figuring out impacts in humanities applications, and they're starting with our archives and special collections in the libraries. We have some special collections that are heavily used by the wider community, not just the University of Minnesota or the University of Minnesota, and they want to know, what's coming out of this. We have a great immigration archive that's heavily used. What are the outcomes from that? And they'll have to go a lot wider than Scopus to find that out. So that allows us to put all of these things in one place.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, so please, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.